I'm Dr. Jennifer Guttman, and I'd like to welcome you to my new Sustainable Life Satisfaction series. We have endured unprecedented and surreal disruptions in our daily lives in the past year, which contributed to an escalation of people suffering from significant mental health issues. I've witnessed what has become an epic crisis in our country firsthand and with my clients. It's what inspired me to create this new 8-episode SLS series, which focuses on using 4 of my techniques: facing fears, decision-making, reducing people-pleasing behaviors, and avoiding assumptions. Each month, I will discuss how to use my techniques at work and at home. In this first episode, Facing Your Fear at Work, I will share 6 tips designed to help you face your fear that you may have at your job. When used effectively, these tips can prevent stagnation, encourage growth, and build your confidence. The first is challenge yourself to talk to your supervisor about promotions and bonuses. Although this may be challenging, it's important to put a financial value on your time. The second is make a concerted effort to speak up in meetings, even if they're virtual, and avoid allowing yourself a chance to use the excuse, "That's what I was going to say," which will haunt you and erode your confidence. The third is set aside time to practice public speaking, even if it needs to be virtually. This will help build a stronger sense of pride and accomplishment. The fourth is embrace opportunities for mentorship and interviewing. Learning how to implement effective strategies to train others reminds your brain how to move through imposter syndrome to the next level of skill development. If necessary, address any changes that need to be made with your supervisor. Set yourself up for success instead of succumbing to the idea that you face impossible odds. The sixth is, if you're a student, have the courage to ask your teacher or professor for special academic accommodations. Keep in mind that altering your behavior patterns is a process, but regularly facing your fear is a good place to start. To experience sustained success, you must remain committed to that goal. I'm Dr. Jennifer Guttman. Welcome to Facing Your Fear at Home, this second episode in my new Sustainable Life Satisfaction series. In my first episode, I shared 6 tips to help you face your fear at work. Facing your fears at home is critical now more than ever because we're hibernating with our families. Facing your fear at home can still help you protect and keep your home emotionally safe and stable for your loved ones. I have identified 4 simple ways you can use your fear as your sous chef to encourage feelings of transparency and efficacy among family members at home. The first is communicate about issues at home as they arise instead of letting resentment build. It's essential that you don't predetermine and eliminate discussions on issues that you fear won't be received in the way that you want. Don't try to guess about outcomes. Sustained communication and openness for growth is more important than whether you get the desired response. The second is try to be sensitive and patient when you want to communicate with family members. Select times when they're likely to be active listeners and most responsive. If you need to sit with some discomfort while you wait for the just right time, it's better to endure rather than pushing and expressing yourself impulsively. Wait, bide your time, and get the most effective response. The third is embrace compromise and, when necessary, agree to disagree. Understand there isn't always a winner or loser. Although it may feel uncomfortable if you can't merge your views on topics, allowing space for that demonstrates respect for each other's perspectives. Facing that fear will strengthen your personal confidence and convictions. It also allows the other person to hold on to their opinions. The fourth is avoid jumping the gun and personalizing issues that you may interpret as inherently confrontational. Exercise patience and learn to cope until you have reliable evidence that something you feel is awry is legitimate. Learn to decrease personalization instead of fueling more relationship issues than already may exist. Over time, your confidence will become stronger as you stop overthinking interactions and wait for information to support predictions. These tips, although primarily aimed at adults, can be modeled for and used with adolescents as well. Take the first step. Your transparency might be necessary to spark your partner or other family members to face their fears as well. I'm Dr. Jennifer Guttman, and I'd like to welcome you to Decision Making at Work, the third episode in my 2020 Sustainable Life Satisfaction series, empowering tips for at home and at work. I developed this motivational lifestyle platform using 6 techniques that can be effective in helping people attain more satisfaction in their lives. Decision making is by far one of our most challenging daily tasks. We literally make thousands of decisions every day. In this episode, I want to share some tips to help empower you to evaluate the authenticity of the important decisions you're making at work. The first is, if your job is unfulfilling, ask yourself, should I stay because I have job security and pressing financial obligations? Or should I start looking for something else because my emotional well-being depends on it? Knowing how long to stay at or when to leave a job is always a tough decision to make. Weigh the pros and cons of each as authentically as possible. Avoid being impulsive and make sure you have a strategy in place for either option. The second is, if you find yourself conflicted about whether you're passionate about the work you're doing, ask yourself if you're committed to your area of specialization or if it feels like it's time to make a shift to another field. Carefully research all your short-term and long-term options. Dig deep to see what feels authentically right to you, as opposed to what might seem right to others. The third is, if you feel like you're not being challenged at work, ask yourself if you should take on a challenge outside of your job. Consider volunteering to support a project or a cause that will inherently inspire and stimulate you. Doing something like this can also foster growth and confidence in your abilities when you feel like you're stagnating at work. Curate alternatives such as whether you should take a gap year before finishing school, try virtual employment upon graduating, or choose graduate school instead of the workforce. There is no right or wrong decision. Make the decision that feels right for you. Remember, with each decision you make, weigh each option without noise from the outside world. This will help you make the most authentic decisions. Writing down a pros and cons list along with journaling will also help immensely. Use a notes app on your phone to write down epiphanies. You know yourself better than anyone, so make sure your decision-making process is in your best interest. I'm Dr. Jennifer Guttman, and I'd like to welcome you to Decision Making at Home, the fourth episode in my new 2021 series, Sustainable Life Satisfaction, Empowering Tips for at Home and at Work. Due to the pandemic, many of us are spending more time at home than ever before, and we're being forced to make major adjustments and decisions on how we live. There are numerous options on how to live at home. So in this episode, I have created an exercise to help you assess and determine the authenticity of how you make decisions at home. It's easy, and you'll need a couple of pieces of notebook paper to do it. I've created 4 questions to challenge and test your authenticity. Each question requires that you define how you see things now, and you juxtapose that idea to what you would feel like a more optimal situation would be. Imagine you're piecing together a puzzle and need to take steps to realize your improved scenario. Keep in mind your decisions will impact other family members. Maintain open and transparent conversations about why some changes need to be made. Understand it may take several discussions to reach an acceptable compromise that satisfies everyone. Here are the questions you need to ask yourself and decisions that you would be working toward answering for the exercise. The first, ask yourself, am I balancing my career and family obligations effectively? How am I doing with my family obligations? How am I doing with my career obligations? Do I feel effective at home, at work? Do I feel I can do a better job with my obligations at home? How? With my obligations at work? How? If I did a better job, would I feel more effective? How would it feel to balance my career and family obligations more effectively in my life? Making decisions that make you feel more effective in your life breeds a feeling of self-respect. The second, ask yourself, am I making positive choices about self-care? Do you find yourself skipping self-care in the service of helping others? Do the people you're helping know you're bypassing self-care in order to prioritize their needs? Are you sure they wouldn't want you to do things to take care of yourself and prioritize that? How would it feel to have a conversation with people about making choices that involve focusing on self-care and not always subserving that to everyone else's needs? How would it feel to be taking care of yourself and honoring that choice? Making decisions that support self-care reflects the understanding that these mental breaks allow us to operate at peak efficiency and productivity. Ask yourself, am I completing tasks at home or am I perpetually behind? Do you find yourself haunted by things left undone? How can I improve the way I prioritize tasks at home so I don't feel overwhelmed and always behind? Making decisions that lead you to feeling more empowered in all areas of your life will make you feel more confident in your life. The fourth, ask yourself, am I maintaining a healthy balance between my friend and family obligations? Do I feel like I could be doing better with family, with friends? Do I feel paralyzed by competing obligations and not know how to proceed? Have you had conversations with family and friends about how you feel frustrated by how the lack of time competes with your desire to see them? Have you asked for help troubleshooting strategies to alleviate the problem to reduce paralysis? Decisions to improve transparent communication builds feelings of self-worth. Once you complete the exercise, review it in a week and assess whether your decision-making process has improved. Notice whether your emotional well-being is improving as well. Decision-making is meant to be flexible and authentic to you, so feel comfortable adjusting your decisions wherever applicable to accomplish your desired goals. I'm Dr. Jennifer Guttman. Welcome to the 5th episode of my new series, Sustainable Life Satisfaction, Empowering Tips for at Work and at Home. In this episode, I'm going to share some tips on how avoiding assumptions at work can help you improve your job performance, increase your self-confidence, and put you on a path to satisfy your goals for success. Assumption making infringes on your decision-making process at work, which creates roadblocks in your professional development. Creating an effective strategy to eradicate them is critical to achieving success. Here are 5 areas to focus on to reduce and ultimately eliminate making assumptions at work. The first, don't make assumptions about your ability to secure raises, bonuses, and promotions based on the extenuating circumstances that may exist in the current climate. Assert yourself with your supervisors to clarify where you stand regarding your financial goals and develop a work plan to meet them. This will be empowering. The second, don't make assumptions at work based on lack of feedback from others. Searching for validation and reassurance for our performance is a fast pass to insecurity. Exercise diligence in learning to self-evaluate your work product based on facts and supportive evidence. This will build confidence. The third, don't make assumptions about limited job opportunities outside of your current situation based on pandemic climate fear. Make sure you do your research, prepare your resume, and network just as you would at any other time. Whether or not looking for a job takes more patience this time, assumption making leads to paralysis, and that will definitely result in you missing out on future opportunities. The fourth, don't make assumptions about how you're being perceived during virtual meetings without actual evidence. Similarly, don't anticipate how your performance may be negatively impacted once you return to work. Being concerned now about future in-person meetings will erode self-confidence. Be in the moment. The fifth, if you've been temporarily laid off due to the pandemic, stay in touch with your supervisor. Don't make assumptions that the hiatus is the result of negative assessments of your capability or that it will negatively affect your future. Assumptions are just guesses, and just because you think them doesn't make them true. Limit and concentrate your thinking process on the present to avoid negative forecasting, which frequently fuels assumption making. The less you assume, the more bandwidth you have to be as effective and efficient at work as you can be. Confidence and satisfaction will follow. I'm Dr. Jennifer Guttman, and I want to welcome you to the 6th episode of my new series, Sustainable Life Satisfaction, Empowering Tips for at Work and at Home. In this episode, I'm going to share 4 tips on how avoiding assumptions at home can improve your personal and family relationships, as well as how you interact with the outside world. Over the past year, we have experienced unprecedented disruptions in our lives at home. Due to the seemingly never-ending pandemic, we're spending more time at home, which has caused many people to feel a sense of hopelessness and fear about our world and future. Many of our fears, which we take home with us, are triggered by making assumptions about negative outcomes. In this episode, I identify 4 prevalent areas of presumptive thinking that can become overwhelming and detrimental to maintaining your mental health and an optimistic outlook at home. The first, help your family members steer clear of topics that focus on making assumptions about the future. It's easy to get caught in a loop of negative predictions about the future of the world when so many areas are in upheaval. But these negative speculations drain families. Focus on living in the moment instead of guessing about what's ahead. Shift the conversation to what changes you can make as a family to help improve today. The third, don't make financial assumptions that will result in family panic during these volatile economic times. Have open conversations with family members about how to handle changes in the economic climate. Be clear with them that the length of time this turmoil will last is unknown. Explain that living with the unknown, albeit challenging, is better than the despair that comes with believing that all is lost. The fourth, try to stop anticipating or guessing about the nonverbal behaviors of your family members. See what happens. It's not worth acting a certain way towards them for no reason. Being patient and waiting may be frustrating, but the benefit of improved family relationships is worth the challenge. Avoiding assumptions at home is critical to maintaining healthy relationships with the world we live in and the people that you love. Welcome back. My name is Dr. Jennifer Guttman, and this is the 7th episode of my new series, Sustainable Life Satisfaction, Empowering Tips at Work and at Home. In this episode, I'm going to share some tips on how avoiding people pleasing at work can help improve your job performance, increase feelings of self-worth, and put you on a path to satisfy your goals for success. Challenging your people-pleasing behaviors at work is an important skill in order to combat an insecure work image. Looking and feeling self-confident and self-assured at work yields positive work empowerment. So here are 5 tips to help you stop people-pleasing at work. The first, challenge yourself to stop overselling yourself or product in an attempt to prove your worth to a client or a supervisor. Lean into your belief in your own value instead of trying to overplease. The second, only apologize once for a mistake. Errors are unintentional. Growth comes from errors. Don't punish yourself for them. We can't be expected to please people all of the time. We're humans, not robots. The third, unburden yourself from feeling responsible for other people's errors at work. Don't overcompensate for mistakes made by others. However, learn from their mistakes in the same way you would learn from your own. The fourth, work hard not to jump in anticipating someone else's needs and do their work without being asked. This may seem like a kind and generous gesture, but it sets you up for resentment when it's potentially not recognized or reciprocated later. The fifth, try not to rush in to complete tasks or errands for others without being asked. This may seem like it's of value, but it backhandedly sends a message to your brain that you need to do things for others to secure your value, which undermines your confidence. To develop the most confidence and self-worth at work, pause before engaging in activities that may look or feel like you're ingratiating yourself to others in order to assert your value. Even though it may be uncomfortable to hold yourself back from proving your indispensability to those around you, in the end, you will develop a belief in yourself and your abilities much faster this way. The strength of this belief will lead to a far more sustainably satisfied life. My name is Dr. Jennifer Guttman, and I want to welcome you to the 8th and final episode of my new series, Sustainable Life Satisfaction, Empowering Tips at Work and at Home. In this episode, I'm going to share 5 tips on how to avoid people-pleasing behaviors at home, which can improve personal and family relationships by reducing resentments and feelings of underappreciation. People-pleasing often starts in childhood when we don't give ourselves permission to please ourselves or put ourselves first. By valuing others more than ourselves, we delegate reinforcement for our worth to the outside world. This makes feelings of satisfaction fleeting, since validation from the outside world is fickle and unreliable. To sustain feelings of satisfaction, self-confidence, and belief in your lovability, reinforcement needs to come from within instead of being delegated to others. Here are 5 ways to stop people-pleasing at home. The first, avoid offering unsolicited advice, guidance, or problem-solving strategies unless you're specifically asked. We do this to secure a feeling of indispensability, but when our guidance is ignored, it can create frustration and resentment. The second, practice not saying yes when you want to say no. When you offer to do things you don't want to, it can lead to a lack of follow-through. This creates internal tension as well as relationship problems. The third, try not to overthink or personalize interactions. Practice avoiding security check-ins and using frustration, tolerance, and patience to wait and see if anything is actually wrong. The fourth, unburden yourself from feeling responsible for other people's good time. Feeling responsible for other people's happiness impedes our own satisfaction. Each individual should be responsible for their own personal contentment. The fifth, give yourself permission to communicate transparently if you're starting to become resentful or feel taken advantage of by others. It's the best way to preserve relationships. You will develop a stronger belief in your inherent lovability if you believe people want to be around you for who you are, not what you can do for them. Thank you for joining me, and I wish you well on your journey toward a lifetime of satisfaction.